Hey, how's it going, everybody? I wanted to run you all through my idea of a budget Powerwall project. So I did another series of videos on my channel improving the capabilities of this UPS, APC, one of these jobbies, rack mount, backup power supplies for servers and stuff. And what I was thinking is that what's expensive in a Powerwall, one of the big expensive components, we've gotten pretty good at finding cheap batteries. Solar charge controllers can be had for a reasonable price, and they're pretty specialty hardware. But what's also normally expensive is your pure sine wave, your inverter. And so these various UPSs, whether it be an APC brand or Triplite or the two I've run across, can be picked up for really cheap from electronics recyclers. Like this one is a 1500 volt amp, which really means like 1100 watts, something like that. And it's a pure sine wave output, German made, right? It's APC's owned by Schneider Electric. Pure sine wave inverter that runs off a 24 volt battery bank. So and I picked this one up for like $107 out the door. So it's a really great way to get a cheap power inverter, but they're not the biggest capacity unless you go to the higher voltage ones. So my thoughts are to use this guy with a 8 cell 24 volt lithium iron phosphate pack, because that's the cells I have, and run this and take my my little office off grid here and kind of rack mount it over here on my messy space. And so I'm going to run you guys through my my components I'm going to use, and then talk about some more of the pros and cons at the end of the video of using a unit like this. Alright, I reviewed that last clip. Oh my gosh, seasick. So I don't ever give a guy who talks with his hands the camera to hold while he films and talks. So I threw the camera on a tripod this time, and I'll try and get my hands out here so you can see my gesticulations. So I said I was going to wait till the end. I'll just talk about it right now. Basically, this unit I went through, and they also sell a 2200 volt amp model, but they use the same circuit board. So I put in the MOSFETs and such to kind of upgrade it to the higher capacity version. You don't have to do that. That's just something I did because I like this kind of stuff. The only thing you do have to do with these rack mount units to make them kind of better suited for continuous use is add some sort of cooling to the FETs, because the way they take care of cooling is just with big hunks of aluminum, and they just plan on this thing only ever running for 10 minutes or so that it'll just heat soak up, and then eventually and then the battery will be flat and it can cool down nice and slow. If you get one of the units that has a connector in the back for external battery packs, it's probably not an issue, but the unit I found, it doesn't have that, so here we are. So that's the one downside. Some of the upsides that are pretty cool is you've got your automatic transfer switch built in if you're into that sort of thing. If you just want to use it like an APC, UPS. And you've got a nice big Anderson power pole connector that you can just harvest out of the original battery bank, and then so you've still got a disconnectable battery bank. In my video series where I modify this, I go way into how to hack this, and you can set your charging voltage and therefore your bottom end cutoff voltage. But for us people on lithium iron phosphate, we overlap pretty well with the default lead acids, which are down there in the corner, the default lead acid battery settings. So these are pretty neat. You got to double check what voltage they are. They come in 12 volt, they come in 24, 48, and then they go up from there. There's it kicking off. After, when you get to 3000 watt, 6000 watt, they start running 190 volt DC battery packs, which is scary shit. You don't want to have to deal with that. So yeah, that basically sums up the short version on my thoughts about the UPS as your main inverter. Alright, and so now to talk about the specifics of my ideas for my projects. And of course, I'm very open to suggestions. I'd love it if you guys would comment down below and let me know what you think. So I was helping my brother with a solar setup on his van. I picked up a bunch of these lithium iron phosphate, let's see if we'll focus, 25 amp hour prismatic cells. And I got them at a really good deal, you know, just barely over $100 a kilowatt hour. And I picked up about 4.5 kilowatt hours worth. And so I'm gonna run, I think just to start, I'm gonna run a 8S 2P pack. But they are pretty big cells, so that'll still be about 1.3 kilowatt hours. And then I've been playing around. I just finished building up some of these. Oh, come on. There we go. Just like AVE. These individual BMS, this DIY BMS V4 is the name of the guy's project. I forget his name. But so this is very similar to a Batrium, whatever, where you have individual cells with their own bleed-off resistors that you put on each cell of the battery, individual boards that you put on each cell. So I'll have 8 of these, and then you have a master control board over here that's all wired into shit, that has a Node MCU, so a Wi-Fi microcontroller, a little I/O expander, and this just, you see, you have one of these per battery pack. And so I'm gonna run that and let that control my battery contactor so that I can disconnect and connect, you know, this as needed. Because my goal is to do this completely off grid and not use this as a battery charger or this for its automatic transfer switch function. Basically just use it for an inverter. And then, yeah, so I've got a resettable DC fuse. It's gonna be 24 volt pack, so I have like an 80 amp fuse. Then I got enough solar panel wire to run it from the spot on the side of my house where I'm gonna slap like 500 watts worth of solar, just like 2 panels, and run the you know, higher voltage, lower amperage solar cable all the way back into my office here. And then I've got one of those Tracer AN, you know, like a 30 amp solar charge controller. So that's kind of the foundations of it. I'll film the different steps of it as I go through it. And I imagine people are going to be interested in the BMS. It's a really cool project. It has a nice web UI and stuff. So yeah, I think I'll show you guys a clip of where I'm going to put the panels, and that'll probably be it for this this first planning video. All right, here we are again, giving the crazy man the camera. Oh, let's bring that down. There we go. The never-ending battle between my laziness and the leaves. I'll let you decide who's winning. So I live in Sacramento, and there's quite a lot of trees here. So the only spot I really have to stick solar, see if I can bring that exposure in. There we go. The only spot I really have to stick solar nicely for a little project like this is on this section of my roof right here. You know, you can see the big trees on the other side, and that way is just pointing the wrong way because the sun's basically coming from behind me. So there I am. Hello everyone. And so right now it's shaded because there's just a shit ton of trees here. But so I'm just gonna stick 2 panels up there. I'm basically gonna tie them in through the vent in the attic up there. And that way if anybody complains, I can rip this thing off of there in a few minutes. So yeah, that's the outside portion of the project. And I don't know, I'll film all wiring that all up and keep you guys updated and see how this works. If it works well, maybe I'll throw more batteries at the bank and use it for more things. We'll see. Well, that's what's nice with your inverter being so cheap and you've already got cells sitting around. You can just try and decide, you know, you could put them in different rooms. So we'll go from there, see how this turns out. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. I'd love any suggestions or if I'm missing anything big. And yeah, leave a comment, subscribe, the usual stuff that Pete says. Enjoy.